So your narcissistic parent ignored your talents, your skills, your abilities, your accomplishments, and you don't really quite know why, because all the while they're giving all of this attention to the child in the family who's maybe even the least talented of you all, and it doesn't make any sense to you. So in this video, I'm going to tell you why the narcissist will ignore some children while not others, and while they will ignore their talents. But I'm also going to tell you what you can do, because this will definitely lower your self-esteem. It'll make you very confused about your own talents, skills, and abilities, and whether or not you're really even any good at any of them. So I'm going to tell you 3 things that you can do to claim your talents, your self-worth, and your personal value. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth. I'm a transpersonal psychologist, a holistic nutritional chef, and a best-selling author of Get Well Now, Healing Yourself with Food and the Power of the Mind. It's a holistic handbook that can help you heal from narcissistic abuse by looking at the entire system. So check that one out. Okay, so like I told you, I'm going to tell you why your narcissistic parent ignored your talents, ignored your accomplishments, ignored your skills, and why they may have focused on another child in the family who maybe wasn't as talented, wasn't as skillful or good at things. And it was very, very confusing to you because you kind of knew, but your self-esteem was so low and you were so confused that you didn't quite know how to even celebrate your own talents. So a narcissistic parent tends to choose the scapegoat and the invisible child. There's a lot of crossover between those 2 roles. Now, they're placing these roles on the kids in the family. It's not something you just naturally are, but there are reasons they do that. So they will place the scapegoat role on the child in the family who is more talented, who's intelligent, the one who's more of a truth teller, who might push at them and say, hey, look, what you're doing is wrong, who might stand up and say that. They'll learn over time to not do that because it just leads to all these awful arguments. And they'll learn to become silent. And they'll learn, too, from their narcissistic parent that their gifts and talents don't matter. And so they may believe and internalize that they don't matter. So they're walking through the world feeling invisible, feeling like they don't matter, because the narcissistic parent programmed them to be that way. And why did they do that? Because the narcissistic parent is full of shame, they're full of guilt, they're full of jealousy and envy. If you do something that pushes against their jealousy and their envy, it's going to make them incredibly uncomfortable. Anything that pushes up against their shame will also make them incredibly uncomfortable. And so they will fight, they will do anything to not have to feel those emotions. So meanwhile, they're projecting those emotions onto everyone around them, particularly the people that are closest in. And the scapegoated child, typically the most talented, typically the most intelligent, typically the most empathetic and kind, and all of the things that the narcissist is not. And if they feel threatened because you have a talent that is similar to something that they do and you surpass them in some way, that's really going to upset them and make them feel like, no, it just pushes up against that pain. So you're going to go through life thinking your narcissistic parent hates you. You're going to feel like your own parent hates you. And what they hate more than anything is feeling those emotions, and they won't let themselves do it. When they start to do it, they freak out. They go into narcissistic injury, then they go into narcissistic collapse, and then they blame you for the reason why they're doing that, instead of being introspective and looking at themselves and looking at, well, you know, I had this awful thing happen to me in my childhood. My parent was a narcissist too and treated me this horribly. I can set about trying to heal this and take responsibility for how I'm treating my own children. But they will not do that. They're not going to take accountability for the way that they're treating their kids, and they're not going to accept responsibility for their own emotional states. That's on you, the kids. You have to clean all of that up for them. And that is a big burden for a child to have to carry. And it's the scapegoated child that tends to carry that. Now, of all these children, any of these kids in the family could also become narcissistic. So, or have narcissistic behaviors and manipulative behaviors that they recycle. So I just kind of wanted to say that. I just felt like it was an important thing to mention too, because you may be thinking, well, the scapegoat in my family is also really highly narcissistic. I think they're a narcissist too. But that person was sometimes scapegoated and sometimes the golden child only when she did the stuff that it's just very, very confusing. One of the key ways to tell is, will they clean up their own messes or not? So just to kind of give you some background as to why the narcissistic parent will belittle your talents, they will dismiss them. So you may accomplish something really big and you're really proud of it and you're really excited and you go to them and you say, hey, look what I did. And they, okay. And then they change the subject or they criticize it. Oh, well, no one's going to read that book. Or no one's going to, whatever it is. Why would you write about something like that? Or why would you, your performance was terrible. I can't believe that people even clapped for you. I mean, they'll say such cruel things that will belittle you and shame you and make you feel like your talents are horrible. So what happens is you may completely turn away from a talent that you actually really are great at. You actually loved engaging in, and but they convinced you that you don't do that thing well, and you convinced yourself you don't do that thing well, and then somebody along the way also pointed out that you don't do that thing well. And so anything that people say to try to tell you, like, no, you're great at that. You're good at that. You should do more of that. You're going to dismiss it because you don't see in your own self the level of talent that you already have, that you just came into the world with, and you don't see ways that you can actually develop those talents. So let me get to those 3 things that you can do to help claim your talents. And to help claim your self-worth and your personal value in the process, because all of those things are mixed up together. Because I'm really talking a lot about your self-expression, your communication, the way that you express yourself in the world. And one of the ways that we express ourselves is through creative endeavors, through artistic endeavors, through our own work in the world, through something that we're really good at. And so what I want you to do is I want you to really look at your talents. Take a look at a talent that you left behind. Maybe you drew a lot as a child. You just would doodle on pages and you loved drawing, but you never really developed the talent because your narcissistic parent told you that you were bad at it, or they compared you to somebody else who was better at it, but they were doing that because they were threatened by you. So know that. So this might help you to reclaim that talent. And then I want you to take that talent that you left behind and begin to develop it. So say you were an artist, you would doodle all over pages, and you really loved drawing and you were just naturally good at it. So now you can go take some art classes. And this can be hard. This can really, you can feel like you're really pushing yourself into something very uncomfortable within you. Go ahead and do it. It's through that discomfort that you will develop, that you will get better. It's through that discomfort of developing this talent that you will grow and you will change, and you'll be able to find things inside of you that you just didn't know were there because you weren't allowed to develop them. You weren't allowed to have that part of you come out and really get better. So this will help raise your self-esteem, because as you develop this talent that you just naturally have, you're going to see that you are really great at it. And other people will see it, and then they'll comment. And when your teacher starts giving you feedback like, this is great, then that's wonderful. Okay, so that brings me to the second thing that I'm going to recommend that you do is notice your improvements and celebrate them. So notice that when you get better at drawing, you get better at something that you're developing, at a talent that you're developing, then notice that, hey, I got better at it. This is a better drawing than that was. This is more developed than that was. This is the thing with talents. It takes development. It takes practice. It takes doing things over and over again and getting better each time with that talent or that ability. Like when I was a chef, I didn't become a good chef overnight. I was terrible at first, actually. When I first started learning to cook and trying to make things all gluten-free and dairy-free, I wasn't good at it. I would mess up things. I would burn things. Things would crumble, like cakes would crumble on the plate because I didn't know what I was doing. But I had to develop that talent. And eventually I ended up in celebrity kitchens. Quite to my dismay, I just ended up in these kitchens and I was just like, wow, okay, I got here. I must be really talented. And I was getting all that feedback. But my self-esteem around it was so low because I was told by my family that I was the worst one in the family. Because I broiled a cake in 1981 when we got new ovens and all the controls were next to each other. Like, I let that wound really take me down. And so I want you to think about, what wounds did you let take you down? And then I want you to develop them, like I said in the first suggestion. And the second one, celebrate. Really celebrate the changes, the growth that you're making. Celebrate yourself. You weren't celebrated as a child for something that you were great at. You weren't often given a chance to develop those talents, especially if you were the scapegoated or invisible child. The third thing I want you to do is, as you're developing your talents, as you're celebrating your talents, as you're getting better and better at them, I want you to start to share those talents with trusted friends, trusted people that love you and care about you. And it's hard. Like at first you'll feel sheepish about it. You'll feel scared about it because you're afraid of criticism, because you were programmed that every time you came to your narcissistic parent with something that you felt good about, you felt proud about, they would tear you down. And so that is destructive criticism. And so that's another thing I want you to really be aware of, is look at the difference between constructive criticism and destructive criticism. They're very, very different, and they're very different in how they feel. So it's the energy behind them. Constructive criticism is important. So you want your art teacher to say, like, hey, you could try just this one little brush stroke that could really help you with making this an even better work of art. And so, yeah, great. Okay, let's try that brush stroke, So that's great. Versus if your art teacher were saying, and this is when I would tell you to change art teachers, oh, that's terrible. Oh, you could do so much better than that. So that's another thing too, I think it's important to note, is that when you do go to develop your talents, find somebody that can help you, who is nurturing and supportive and is helpful to you in the way that you need to be spoken to about your development of talents. So I hope that this information has really helped you to understand more deeply about your own talents, will help you bring out your talents so that you can share them with others and maybe one day share them with the world. But developing your talents will help you raise your self-esteem. It'll help you raise your personal value and will help give you an honest and true perspective for you to be able to see how good you are at something, and help you to get better at that thing that you are already just naturally good at. Your gifts, your skills, your talents, your abilities are such an important part of you. They're a powerful part of your ability to create in your own life. And so developing those skills are going to be so powerful and brilliant and wonderful for you. So if you haven't already done so, please make comments down below. Tell me about your story. Tell me about a talent that maybe you were able to bring out and develop in adulthood, away from your narcissistic parent, and also things that you might suggest for future videos. Please comment, like, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching my videos. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth, and I hope this information will help you get well now.